name is Deb from DG Reads, and I'm here today to kick off a new vlog reading about AI. Artificial intelligence and all that goes with it is an active topic of conversation these days, even in the book sphere, when it comes to things like AI art for covers and accusations of using AI for writing and all of that. What I'm looking for in this particular vlog is to read about AI. There's something about the potential horrors and the potential improvements that both can come from AI that I find really intriguing in my fiction, and seeing artificial intelligence in some way, shape, or form in a synopsis always grabs my attention. So I have a few books on my TBR to get to that all have this in common, so I figured why not read them. So I do have a bit of a TBR put together for this to start with, subject to change, of course, as always, but let me run through what I currently have. One book that I have on audio from Harper Audio and Libro FM is Anniebot, and this is by Sierra Greer. This one is actually officially on my November TBR because I did pick it for one of my prompt ball prompts at the beginning of the month in my TBR video. So this one, I know we're following a bot named Annie. She's designed to be the perfect girlfriend, and she's trying her hardest, but then she starts to get ideas in her head about maybe a life beyond being with this guy. So the idea of artificial intelligence potentially having a thought system that goes beyond the control of people meant to control her. Next up, I have a book gifted to me by Random House, and that is In the Blink of an Eye by Joe Callahan. And in this case, we're following a woman who is a police officer or detective. She is picked for a pilot program that will pair her with a artificial intelligence that will do readings on people and create statistical analysis of if people are lying, it sounds like, what the potential leads to follow are maybe. I don't know exactly, but it sounds like a really intriguing use of AI in an investigative sense, and I will be finding out more. Next up, I have a gifted copy of Mal Goes to War by Edward Ashton. This one actually is already out. It came out in April. I received an ARC for it after the fact. In this one, humans have created yet another war. No one's surprised. Mal is a free AI, and he is entirely uninterested in the war between the modded and the augmented federals and the puritanical humanists. He winds up cut off and trapped in the body of a cyborg with a human child to take care of. So I'm very interested to see where this one goes. Next up, we have Hum by Helen Phillips, and this is set in a not too distant future. The world has changed quite a bit. It's inhabited by intelligent robots. We're following a human who has lost her job to artificial intelligence and is trying to make ends meet. Apparently, she signs up for some sort of program to be a guinea pig in an experiment that alters her face so it cannot be recognized by surveillance. Something happens. She winds up having to put some faith into one of these hums, one of these artificial robots, and that's all I know. It was a book of the month pick, and I went ahead and added it on to my box, specifically kind of thinking about this vlog idea. So I'll find out more. It's a nice short one. I could use one of those. And then last but certainly not least, this is another one that's on my official November TBR for another prompt ball pick, and that is Clara and the Sun by Kazu Ishiguro. This is an author I've enjoyed before, so this one has been on my radar for a little bit, and I picked it up specifically again for this vlog, so hopefully I will get to it. This is following Clara, who is an artificial friend. She's in a store window basically watching humans pass her by and hoping someone will come in and take her home. And then something happens and she's told not to trust in humans. I don't know what happens, but I'm intrigued to find out. So I'm really excited for all of the books on that list. Hopefully I will get to all 5. The only question is, do I find more as I'm reading these to add to the list, because this is something I'm always kind of on the lookout for. So I think we've got a good mix of things here between sci-fi, which seems always to be an AI type genre, but also maybe some horror, maybe some thrillerness, and a good time to be had regardless. So I will go ahead and get started reading and be back once I have some initial thoughts on one of these books for you. I'm back because I started my first AI book, and that is In the Blink of an Eye by Joe Callahan. And this is a gifted copy I received from Random House, and I am now about 40% in and enjoying my time with it so far. In this one, we're following Kat, who's recently widowed. She's now a single mother. She's very concerned about being there for her child, being safe because she doesn't want to leave them orphaned. She has in the past been a police detective, and she comes back to one of her bosses and says she'd like to come back to work, but in some sort of capacity where she'll be safe. She's been out of the business for a while, so there's not a ton of opportunities for her, but her boss tells her about this one option, and he would like to put her up for a job where she is going to be paired with an AI in an investigative capacity. This is a pilot program, and it's something that both she and her boss are wary of, but he trusts her to give solid feedback and honest feedback, and they're going to be investigating cold cases, so there shouldn't be an active present danger. Of course, things aren't going to go according to plan, or else we wouldn't have much of a book. This AI partner she gets is definitely underdeveloped in understanding human emotion. He does things like appear as the missing boy in front of the mother who is afraid for her missing 21-year-old son, things like that. And it's done in a way where the AI is thinking this is something that could help the investigation, where Kat knows this is hurtful. This is not something you should be doing. So I'm enjoying kind of that interplay and that learning curve maybe that this AI is experiencing. And also Kat going from perhaps being very anti-AI to acknowledging that there is some potential for use in this situation. I'm finding it a little on the slow side, but at the same time also really intriguing. I am interested. I think as I'm getting further in, I'm getting more and more invested in what's going on and wanting answers. So hopefully this will be one that'll fully grab me as I get past this halfway point. So I will go ahead and keep reading, come back when I have some final thoughts and review for you. I'm back with some AI updates, but before I even get to the reading part of this, I have to say, within half an hour of me starting my AI book yesterday, I got a message from Instagram offering me an AI chat that I could set up to help with my messages on Instagram. And trust me, I don't get so many, I need help with them. So that was interesting. But on the reading front, I did finish In the Blink of an Eye today. So I overall really enjoyed this one. I did get more invested the further into the book I got, partially I think because our main character also got more invested. Some of the things that happened became more personal for her, and that had me much more hooked into the story as we went along. I do think there's also some fantastic discussions in here about why one person might say an AI investigator or police officer would be the appropriate option because they don't have the biases and the racism and the homophobia and all those things that are inherently part of a human person. Well, at the same time, there's also discussions about what humans can offer that AI can't in terms of gut instincts and personal touches. We do see the AI person, man, grow as the story progresses and pick up some of the things that the detective is teaching him. And I really like seeing how that kind of expanded and grew throughout the book. The mystery itself had some interesting twists that I did not expect, and I enjoyed that element as well. So overall, this was a 4-star for me. It was still a little slow to engage at the beginning, so it never quite hit a 5-star for me, but I had a really good time reading this and would definitely recommend if you're interested in kind of a sci-fi mystery type of story. I have started on my next AI book, and that is Hum by Helen Phillips. I'm a little bit past the halfway point in here, which puts me in part 2. And there's things about this that are working for me, some that aren't working quite as well for me. We're following May, who is a wife and a mother, and she loses her job to artificial intelligence. She's no longer needed, but her family obviously needs an income. To kind of deal with this, she agrees to be part of a pilot program that alters her in a way that her face is no longer recognizable by AI, by the technology of this world. It seems to be a little risky, but it's a good payday. And she uses some of this money to take her family on a rare getaway. There's a biodome where people can go and enjoy nature and kind of get away from the world. Nature is a rarity in this world because this world is so focused on technology and development and everything else. There's very little left of a natural world. And her family is very focused on technology themselves. And she convinces her family, not exactly willingly, but she convinces them to give up their devices, not take their phones or any device that would allow the world to track them or know where they are. And of course, things go wrong. That's kind of the point I'm at as we've hit the halfway point. Things are going very wrong. We're seeing the way technology is necessary in this world, but also May's fears of them. There are these bots basically that are called hums, and they control pretty much everything. They are constantly asking for approval to do certain things, but at the same time, they're the only hope that May has in this moment when things are going wrong to protect her family potentially. And it's an interesting kind of interplay between her not trusting technology and having this hatred of technology, but then also needing technology and realizing that cutting themselves off from technology hasn't been the big solution she thought it might be. I think what's working well in here is that this world feels like something that's possible. It doesn't feel like a super far future. It feels like something that is not that far removed from our current world as we're growing more and more reliant on AI, on technology in general. What's not working as well for me is I like May and we're in May's head, so that's fine. But her husband and her relationship with her husband, I'm not really driving with. There's random relationship stuff, sex stuff that I don't feel is necessary to the story in any way, shape, or form, and I could easily cut some of that out. The kids, kind of annoying, so I think they get a lot of attention in the story for good reason because they are part of the big catalyst to the plot, but they're a little obnoxious. So I'm not sure about this one. I am eager to continue. It's super short. It's really not that long, so I will definitely, without a doubt, finish it easily. It's very easy to consume. I will say, having listened to some of it on audio, the constantly repeating her name and asking permission does feel repetitive, and I get the point. It's not unrealistic in this setting for this to be happening, but on audio, it does come across as very repetitive at times. So that's where I'm at with this one. I'm going to keep reading, and I will provide you with a final update when I get there. I finished up Hum today, and I just never got really connected in with this one. It didn't make it past the concept being interesting for me, which is something I find with some frequency in science fiction, is I'm more intrigued by the concepts and ideas than the storytelling. And I think this author had a lot of really interesting ideas, the way people interacted with the AI, with these hums, and the way that integrated into their lives, the way that children reacted to the hum that is around. I thought that was really interesting. I just wasn't invested enough, I don't think, in the characters to really be fully drawn in. I think it was a fine book. I think it's on the lower end of a 3-star for me, but not my favorite. So I am eager to continue on in my AI journey and find something that I enjoy much more. So I will be back once I have thoughts on a new book. Next up in my AI journey, I have Mal Goes to War by Edward Ashton. This is an author that I did read his Mickey 7 series and liked it. I didn't love it, but I was eager to try another one of his books, and this was kindly gifted to me by St. Martin's. As the title implies, we're following Mal, and he is a free AI, which means he has the ability to kind of move between different people, different devices, I guess, maybe, and explore the world in that that way. He doesn't have a physical body of his own, and this is a world at war. This is a war between the Federals and the humanists, and no one's surprised, of course, that the humans are at war. Yet again, this is what we do. This is a world where we can have humans who are purely human, we can have modded humans, and this is what's kind of behind the war and the debate. And Mal's not really taking a side, he's just investigating. When someone cuts off the info space, basically the web that provides information and the ability for Mal to move between entities, he gets cut off. And he's stuck in the body of a cyborg that had been taking care of a modded child. There are many who don't believe children should be modded, or people in general should be modded, so she's kind of a rare commodity that needs protection. That's a weird way to say that, but hopefully you get the gist. The story is interesting. I don't know that I'm really feeling at the halfway point fully hooked into it, and that could very well be a me being distracted type of thing instead of it just being the book. I've been listening to this largely on audio. The audio is really good. It has some extra production value when they're talking on radios, or they're talking without voices, I guess maybe would be the more appropriate way, because we're talking about robots and AI communicating to each other through alternate means, and there's extra kind of production value tied to that to make it sound like someone on a radio or someone transmitting speech versus just vocalizing speech. I am enjoying seeing the way Mal interacts with this human and becomes protective of her, and the way that becomes kind of mutual. It's a little disturbing the way Mal can just kind of jump into dead bodies. That's an interesting touch. So I'm going to leave it there for now, and hopefully I'll have better thoughts by the end when I get further invested in it. I am planning to sit and kind of physically reading this today with the audio and see if that kind of helps my getting fully enmeshed in the story. So with that, I'll leave you here and I'll be back later. I've been holding off on doing an update, hoping that my voice would be coming back, but it seems to be staying gone for a little while, so I'm going to try to do a couple really quick updates for you and keep them brief for obvious reasons. I also am not sure what I did with my copy of Mal Goes to War right at the moment, and I'm not using the energy to go find it, so later editing me will be annoyed that she has to pop up a copy of the cover, but that's what we're going with. So I finished this book. Overall, I enjoyed it. I didn't love it. And I think that's kind of the way this author's writing has gone for me in the past as well, where I find enjoyment in these books. I don't necessarily find a deep connection to them. Things that I really did like about the book are the found family aspect. As our characters are going along, they add some people to their group, and you get that kind of found family feeling, which I really enjoy. And then secondary to that, I really enjoyed the dark humor in this. We're in a war setting, the author is both showing the brutality of war, but also injecting some humor in while not keeping it light and fluffy. It's a very dark humor, which I appreciated a lot. So in the end, I think I give this one a 3.5. Not a new favorite, but it's one that I enjoyed reading. I picked it up on audio and really enjoyed that format. They give it a little bit of extra production value, which I think I mentioned in the first clip. So I think this was a fun time. And then in my waiting and hoping to be in recovery mode, I did start my next book. And I'm now midway into Clara and the Sun. And this one is another one that I'm having a good time with. We are following Clara, who is an AI, an artificial friend, and she's not the latest and greatest model. She's in what I would interpret to be kind of a rundown shop with a lot of kind of overstock models maybe, but while she's in the window one day, she catches the eye of a young girl who is teenage, maybe mid-teenage years, and falls in love with her at first sight and doesn't care that she's not the latest and greatest model. She wants Clara, and she convinces her mother to let her take her home. And from there, we're following in Clara's perspective as she sees the outside world for the very first time. She's never been anywhere except inside that store. And I'm finding it a really interesting perspective to follow. Very interesting to see the relationships and her interpretation of relationships as an AI, watching the people around her, watching her charge with other people. And we're also getting a bit of Clara's personal religion, which I'm finding really interesting as well. The synopsis for this one is kept intentionally vague, I think, on the
the book, and I think that's good to go in without too much knowledge, so I don't want to say too much. Plus the fact that I don't have enough voice to say too much. So I'm going to leave it there. I'm at 60% or so, because that's where kind of there was a natural stopping point with different parts of the book. So I'm eager to keep going and be able to get back to you soon, hopefully with more voice, hopefully with final thoughts. Okay, Kylie chaos is currently ensuing, so if there's noise, that's what's going on. But I do have a couple of AI-related updates for you, and now seem like the right time. So, the first thing is I did finish Clara and the Sun, and this was a very melancholy read. I liked it. I enjoyed it. I didn't love it, but I think it had so many really good conversations. I think Clara's perspective was really unique, and her take on the world gave such a unique perspective. And I really think it did a good job of character development, of exploring this idea of a society so focused on advancing children and giving them every advantage while also potentially harming them, and having these artificial friends involved. There were some things I think maybe could have had a little more depth or a little more discussion. There were elements to the world that I wasn't 100% sure on, but I think in general it did really well at exploring a lot of really good themes and ideas, and I give this one 4 stars. And then I'm only about a quarter of the way in to Annie-Bot, but as I'm trying to be economical with my lack of voice on these updates, I figured I would do my midway update here. In this one, we're following Annie, who is an artificial girlfriend. She has been purchased by her boyfriend, Doug, and he controls her, basically. Except that they together, although really how much weigh-in did she possibly have, decided that they would turn on the function where she's autodidactic, meaning that she's able to learn and evolve and grow and pursue knowledge and make her own decisions, in theory, while still under the guidelines that, of course, she's there to benefit her boyfriend. He paid good money for her and so forth. So as the story begins, they are well into this period of her being autodidactic. She's beginning to start to question things a little bit more. We're seeing her come in contact with one of his friends for the first time and how that goes, and how his own feelings about her are very conflicted because she's not the perfect servant, but at the same time he's worried that other people would think of her as a sex toy, which they're not entirely wrong if they do so in some ways, but she also is evolving as an entity and a consciousness, and kind of pushing back a little bit on things she might want to know and things that maybe aren't exactly what Doug would want of her. So it's very stressful in the way of not exactly enjoying what I'm reading, but I'm interested in the ideas and the discussions that are happening, and I'm not sure what direction it's going to go. And at this 25% mark, there's kind of a distinction being made where she's seeing Doug interact with other Stellas, which is the model I guess she is, and having that remembrance of how she first started as a basic mindless robot. She looks human. She doesn't look like she is artificial, but she is programmed, and they have the ability to roll back her programming. If she evolves in a wrong direction, they can take that away from her. And there's a lot of things that are just really interesting in here. So I'm excited to keep going with this one. It is pretty short, so I think I will be back with final thoughts and to wrap up this vlog fairly soon. I am back with final thoughts, and I'm not 100% sure how I felt about how this progressed. I will say it continued to feel uncomfortable. It continued to have really good discussions. I think especially living in the world we're in right now, where a woman's rights to her body aren't guaranteed, this had a lot of really important discussion points with this boyfriend and how he treated his artificial girlfriend. Yes, she was a construct, but she was given the ability to think for herself and to have some level of self-determination, and she was trapped within this realm of being controlled by a man, being controlled by her boyfriend, boyfriend. And he does some pretty crummy things to her along the way. And it's not to say she doesn't maybe make some mistakes. It's not to say that he's the absolute worst. He could have been worse, and he makes that point quite regularly. I think in the end, I liked the empowerment she began to feel, but I'm not sure. It's just one of those books where I think it's more about the thought and making you think and getting in your head. And I think it did that very successfully. I'm giving this one, I think 3.5 rounded to 4 is where I'm landing on it. And yeah, I think it's worth picking up. I think it's extremely necessary to double check the trigger warnings with this when it comes to things like lack of consent and male controlling a female and things along those lines. So take that as you will. But with that, it is time to go ahead and wrap up this vlog. I had a really good time exploring this subject, and I think it was a fun one to kind of get into and see very different perspectives on AI and the role of AI in various lives, and definitely in a fictional sense, not a too much reality sense, but also in ways where you can kind of see where the future's heading. So let me know in the comments below, do you have any good AI story recommendations? What are your general thoughts on AI? Do you find the idea interesting? Do you find it scary? Let me know all the things. And if you don't have anything to comment, leave me a robot emoji. Thank you so much for being here. If you could hit that like button below, I would surely appreciate it. And subscribe if you're interested in more of my themed vlogs, more of my bookish thoughts, and hopefully more of my voice behaving in the future. And I will go ahead and leave you here and see you real soon in a new video.